In our previous video, we were looking at the mission, vision, and values of an organization. So if we're doing strategic planning, we need there to be alignment in terms of our goals and strategies with who we are as an organization, our values and the values of our stakeholders, and where we see ourselves going. So in our previous video, we came up with the mission, vision, and values, and we were using Tim Hortons as an example. So we looked at how Tim Hortons sees themselves in terms of delivering superior quality products. They want to make a difference, have personal excellence, have the customers be first. So if we're then going to develop some goals, these goals are the desired outcomes. And here we're looking at the goals for the organization. So when we set goals, they're usually done by the top executive and then passed down throughout the organization, the desired outcomes for the organization as a whole. We then need to look at strategies, how the goals will be achieved. Now, you've probably talked about goals before, right? We often talk about SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, and we need them to be realistic, and we need them to be timely. So when we're writing out our goals, we want to make sure that they are challenging yet attainable. And the whole point of doing strategic planning is to help prepare us for the future and help reduce some of the risk or the unknown that comes with that future. So when we set our goals, they need to be flexible. So we're going to write out the goals in terms of outcomes rather than actions. So rather than being steps that we're going to take, what do we want to accomplish? How will we know if we're successful? So we need to specify, as we said, a time frame, make it measurable so we can use our balanced scorecard to see how well we are doing in measuring our progress. And as we set out our goals and do our strategic planning process, we want to involve everyone within the organization. So strategic planning can be quite costly because when organizations undertake strategic planning, there's often town halls, surveys, engagement of all your stakeholders, including your employees, to get feedback from all the areas of your organization to make sure that we all understand the direction our organization wants to go and to help build agreement and support for what goals we create. So we set out our goals. What are the outcomes that our organization wants to achieve? And then from there, we can look at how we're going to go about achieving them. So our strategies are going to be a bit more specific. Our goals will be a bit more general. When we look at choosing strategies for our organization, we want to go back to Porter's 5 forces. So sorry, I'm just going to go back a second here. When we think about Porter's 5 forces, recall that Porter's 5 forces looked at the competition. It looked at the threat of entry. So how likely is it that new competitors are going to join? It looked at the threat of substitutes. So how likely is it that our customers will just choose some other product? And it looked at the bargaining power of both our suppliers and our buyers. So when we are setting our strategy, we want to consider these Porter's 5 forces. And we want then a strategy that will help to lower or manage the supplier power. So when we look at in terms of negotiating with our suppliers, who has more leverage? If the supplier has more leverage, then the supplier can pass more of their costs on to us, the organization, which means we then have to charge our customers more. We want it to be a relationship, a mutually beneficial relationship. So we're looking for strategies that will help reduce the leverage the supplier has over us and build more partnerships so that they can help us in terms of maybe we're looking at reducing costs. Maybe we're looking at diversification. Maybe we're looking at improving quality. So it'll help us lower or manage the supplier power. If we are selling to another company, then we also want a strategy that will help lower or manage the customer power. So again, it's about leverage, and we want to have a mutual beneficial partnership. We don't want them to have so much power over us. For example, if they're our only customer, then we are highly tied to what they want, what they're willing to pay when they place their orders. And so will our strategies allow us to, say, find another customer base so that we are not solely tied to one particular customer? We can look at our strategies in terms of the impact on the competition. So does it help reduce the competition? So maybe our strategy is a diversification, or we're going to focus on a particular target market, a niche group. And so that means there will be less competition. And that will give us then more influence in terms of the price that we charge. We also want to look at those last two pieces of Porter's 5 forces. That is, will it help lower or end the substitution threat? So something that makes us unique and special so that we aren't being threatened by having our customers choose someone else or a different product. And is it a strategy that will help us in terms of the threat of new entry? So if we can do things a unique way, a more efficient way, if we can provide a product, maybe we're able to expand our organization, get the cost per units down. And so we're taking advantage of those economies of scale that we get from doing things like buying our inventory in bulk, spreading out those big fixed costs, that then makes it more difficult for others to compete with us. So we're looking at the strategies for our organization. Well, Jack Welsh, he's the CEO of General Electric from 1981 to 2001. And a very famous manager, organization leader, had some thoughts in terms of how you develop your strategy. And just to give you a little bit more context about who Jack Welsh is, he had a significant impact in terms of General Electric's success. He is the one who popularized the idea of Six Sigma. So perhaps your organization that you work for now or one you will work for in the future is creating opportunities or having you get trained in Lean Six Sigma. Maybe you are getting your yellow belt or whatever level of training that you're getting. That's really because of Jack Welch, not because he invented it. It was actually Motorola who created the idea of Six Sigma. And Six Sigma is originally based on the idea that if we're producing a large quantity of goods, so this is that continuous production method, large quantities, that we should have so little defects, so little problems, that the percentage of time that we have these issues or the number of units we produce that have issues is outside of 3 standard deviations in each direction. So it's so tiny of a probability. Because if you're looking at 3 standard deviations in either direction of the average is 99.7% of the time. If you go out 6 standard deviations in each direction, then we're talking about infinitesimally small a percentage of our products are defective. So he's the one who popularized that. What we see now is the idea of Six Sigma has been joined with lean management, which we'll talk about in a later video, and is now being applied not just to mass production, but to service provision as well. And the idea is to be lean, more efficient, but also reduce the defects, the quality issues, and increase the performance of the organization so that most of the time things run really smoothly. So what's happened is the Six Sigma that Jack Welch has popularized has been combined with just-in-time and lean manufacturing to kind of create the buzz in terms of efficient production and processes even in service sectors today. But we're looking at him today because of his thoughts on strategy. So according to Jack Welch, if you're doing strategic development for your organization, you need to look at what does the competitive playing field look like? So just like the Porter's 5 forces, who are the competitors? What are they offering? And what have they been up to lately? So what are your competitors doing in terms of costs, in terms of innovations? And what have we been doing lately? So we talked about how the strategic planning process really starts with first looking at your current operations, how well your organization is running. And so if we look at how we are functioning as an organization compared to the competitors, and then we look at what future events or possible changes might be coming up. So remember, in our strategic planning process, after we look at our internal operations, we do that environmental scan, we looked at a SWOT, and we looked at PESTLE. And so are we able to keep up with those changes? As a manager, what keeps you up at night? And then what's our winning move? So given those things that keep you up at night, that make you worried as a manager, what is it that you could do so that you can reduce those threats to your organization? So we want to brainstorm some strategies that help us in terms of those Porter's 5 forces, or the approach that Jack Welch is looking at in terms of strategy development, that take into consideration that work we've done so far in our strategic planning process, where we look at the environment and we look at our strengths and our weaknesses, our opportunities and threats. We also looked at the BCG matrix and looked at our product mix and how it was performing. All of these will inform our strategy. So when we create our strategies, they're going to be a bit more specific than goals, and our strategies will exist at different levels within our organizations. Now, the planning process is going to affect the whole system, the whole organization. We need to recognize that we'll have goals for the whole organization, and then we'll have strategies for different parts of that. We need our top managers to clarify their objectives and adjust their expectations. We need to include them in the planning process. And we need to recognize, as we said before, that any goals and strategies we come up with need to be flexible. Okay. So let's look at some different types of strategies. In terms of some generic strategies, we have corporate strategies. So these are strategies for the whole organization. And we could have a growth strategy. So we want to expand the number of markets served or the products offered. Well, one option when it comes to a growth strategy for our organization is concentration. So we're going to offer more product options to our current market that we serve. So if you're Tim Hortons, we're going to offer more flavors of donuts, and we're going to offer maybe some different coffee options. So we're going to move into offering maybe cappuccinos and lattes. So we're offering it to the same customers, we're just giving them similar products to those same customers. So that's concentration. We could look at a backwards vertical integration strategy. So maybe in order to save on costs, we are going to buy our suppliers. So if we have a company, if we're Tim Hortons, and there is a company that provides us the coffee beans, then perhaps we buy that company. And that way we can streamline some of our supply chain, which we'll look at in a future video, lower costs, or maybe because of that high level of communication and information sharing that can happen when we're the same company, and there's not a risk that your supplier is going to go start working for the competition, maybe that'll allow us to offer something unique. Maybe we can improve the quality of the coffee beans and what we sell in terms of coffee at Tim Hortons. If we're a company that sells to another company, we could have a strategy for growth that includes forward vertical integration. So we can buy up our distributor, the company we sell our products to. And so if you look at companies like Walmart, for example, Walmart owns most of their supply chain. So they own the trucking company, the distribution centers, the warehouses, and of course the retailer, the Walmart store at the end. So here you can see that they have grown and helped to streamline their supply chain by having that forward vertical integration. Okay, so you buy the distributor if you're the company that's making it, and you can go backwards and you can buy your supplier. So we buy up more of the supply chain. Alternative growth strategies can be like horizontal integration, where you buy out the competitor. So maybe you and the competition decide to merge and become one. As of the time of this video, Rogers and Shaw are trying to do some horizontal integration. That is, they want to merge into one telecommunications company to allow them to do growth. You can also have a growth strategy that moves you into different markets. So related diversification, we're going to move into a related industry. If we think about Shaw, originally as a company, they provide cable TV. And as they expand, when they buy up cell phone companies, they're related industries. They're technology, they're telecommunication, but it's not the same products. So it's a strategic fit. And so you're looking for opportunities for economies of scope. So the term economies of scope says that we can save money by selling similar products. So we lower our costs because the same resources go into providing cell phone service as it does providing a cable TV service. Okay. You can also have unrelated diversification. Unrelated diversification is where you move into an unrelated industry. Right? So we're looking at Tim Hortons. At the time we're making this video, Tim Hortons is going from selling coffee and donuts to selling rice bowls. All right, so it's not the same target market. This is not, necessarily the snack, the quick on the go, eat in the car snack, or the morning coffee. A rice bowl is a lunch or dinner. And so you could argue maybe it's related diversification because it's still food supply. And as we go farther and farther from that same target market, and we have more in terms of different products that we need, different materials that we need to make a particular good or provide a particular service, then we're looking at more of that unrelated diversification. So in terms of our corporate strategies for our overall organization, they can be more growth related, so concentration, so more of a similar product to the same customers. We can buy up parts of our supply chain with backwards vertical integration, forwards vertical integration. We can reduce the threat of competition through horizontal integration. We can expand into new markets, either related or unrelated, depending on if they use similar resources or if they have a similar target market. Alternatively, we could have a corporate strategy that's stability. So maybe there's a lot of environmental upheaval, a lot of things happening around our organization, and we've seen small, steady growth, and we just are going to keep at what we're doing. So we have a stability strategy about maintaining the status quo. Maybe we've had some challenges with our organization and there have been issues, maybe products that we have released. So we're Tesla and there's been issues in terms of product recalls. Maybe there's been issues and fights with the government in terms of we've been selling people upgrades for self-driving vehicles, but it doesn't self-drive and the government won't let us self-drive. So maybe we need a bit of a renewal strategy, a strategy that realigns who we are and what we're doing with our original mission, vision, and values. If we're simply seeing a declining performance, a customer base is leaving us, so we're losing a bit of market share, then we are doing what's called retrenchment. So we're just realigning with our original vision and addressing some of that declining performance issues. If the organization is just in a downward spiral, people are leaving, quality has declined, we're just leaking money, then we need a big change. And so the renewal strategy can be quite an overhaul in terms of what we're doing and how we're operating. So often we'll see companies that are suffering, Bed Bath & Beyond, Sears, you get someone who comes in and just restructures the whole organization. Often there's an influx of money. Someone from outside purchases them, chops them up, or just completely restructures who they are and what they are about. And that would be a turnaround in terms of renewal strategy. We can also have renewal strategies that are simply in terms of cost cutting. Maybe our organization has become too bloated in terms of the number of middle management, so we need a bit of restructuring, go back and redefine what that organizational structure is, who reports to who, reset the span of control, and create the chain of command. So we can have a strategy that overhauls the organization. Small changes, retrenchment, big changes, turnaround, or we can have them very specific in terms of the changes to our organization, focus on cost cutting, focus on the organizational structure. So those are our company-wide. You can also have competitive strategies. These are for strategic business units. So for example, if you're Amazon, we have a number of companies or business units underneath us. Amazon Web Service, we have the Kindle and the in books. There is the store in terms of the Amazon where you can order, all kinds of random products. In the States, there is the grocery store in terms of Amazon. So there's a number of business units, and you could have strategies that are specific to each one. So Amazon Web Service is the cloud computing and storage, things like Blackboard store information. When you submit assignments, they are being held on Amazon's servers. So you could have a strategy that's specific to that portion of the organization. You could have a different strategy that's specific to, say, the grocery part. And so these competitive strategies can be focused on cost, they can be focused on differentiation, or they can be a focus strategy. So when we talk about these competitive strategies for your business units, we're using Porter's generic strategies. So Porter's generic strategy says that as an organization, we can focus on lower cost, so we can pass on in terms of lower prices to our customers, or we can make our products different. Maybe they are physically different. Maybe we're located in a place that's more convenient. Maybe it's the ambiance, right? Fine dining restaurants versus fast food. Maybe it's our reputation. So we offer, we donate to charity. Maybe we offer customization so you can get exactly what you want, different quality, different reliability. So you can compete based on being different. If you are different, then your demand is more inelastic, so less sensitive to price change. And if you're different, then you can charge a bit more for your product. If your focus instead is on cost leadership, then you have a lower price. You are more efficient. The focus then is on less waste. You might produce a larger quantity so you can reduce that per unit cost to take advantage of those economies of scale. So you might focus on cost, you might focus on differentiation, or you might take one of these two generic strategies and apply them to a niche, to a unique demographic or cohort. And so a cost focus then is low prices to a certain group. You're appealing your product to a certain group of individuals. Or a differentiation focus. So you're differentiating your product and providing it to that unique group. So what it may be is that you've tweaked your product to be exactly what a certain cohort wants, as opposed to providing something a bit more generic to the greater population. So if we think about making computers, for example, so we could have a cost leadership approach to selling computers. Low cost, we get the cost to make the computers as cheap as possible, so you can buy a laptop for $1,000 or less. We could have a differentiation strategy. That is, we are going to differentiate our product by providing touch screens on our laptops. We are going to have more memory, brighter and higher definition in terms of the built-in camera and the screen. Different. And because we're different, people are willing to pay more. That's more of the Apple approach, right? Or we can approach a niche market. So maybe the group, sneeze, sorry. Sorry about that. Maybe the group that we're appealing to is the gamer. And so the laptop that we're designing is really going to have a high-end graphics card in it. And so there's certain features that are important to gamers. So we're going to do a differentiation, but it's going to be focused specifically for gamers. Okay. Or we could do a cost focus, and we could create a laptop that is built for schools. It doesn't do a whole lot, but we can get that price down to $300. And that way students across the country can afford a laptop and use one in their classroom. So cost, and then we're going to limit those features to get the cost down to get it to that particular group of customers. So in a competitive strategy, we have a cost leadership, differentiation, or we can do either of those for a particular unique segment. The challenge, of course, with the focus strategy is that that demand may disappear. That particular cohort of individuals may not continue to exist as a united cohort. Maybe gamers now need different things. Some are doing VR, some want more traditional gaming. The strategies are going to be a bit limited because you have a very narrow focus, and you might lose your uniqueness. As that market subsegments, those groups splinter out, then it's going to be harder to appeal to that focus. So it can be one way to get a competitive strategy in a highly competitive market, but it's also probably the hardest to maintain. Now, when it comes to your strategies, you'll also have functional strategies. So our functional strategies are going to be strategies specific for the functional areas of our organization. So the marketing department will have strategies that feed into what they're going to use in terms of marketing mix. Our operations will have strategies. So if we're going to do more cost leadership as our competitive strategy, then operations is going to look at costs in specific areas. Finance and accounting will have their own functional strategies, and so will HR. Just to wrap up our little discussion here, in terms of strategy, when we choose these strategies, we need alignment. So mission, vision, values, goals for our organization, then the strategies at the corporate level, and then if we have strategic business units, we may have strategies that are specific to them. And then we keep going down to those functional areas. They should all align so that we have that those common goals. When it comes to goal setting, you can have a traditional goal setting approach. So that is the top of our organization is going to set those overall goals. They're going to set those corporate level strategies. And then they'll be broken into sub goals and strategies throughout the organization. The challenge, of course, is that as you pass this information from top down, is that ultimate focus may be less clear. It's like the game of telephone, right? We're passing on information. Some of that original information might get lost. More and more popular today is what's called management by objective. Management by objective is where your employees and your management work together to set those goals and strategies. We have rewards on the basis of the ability to accomplish those strategies, to meet those goals. And so here with management by objective, it's a continual process, and it's one that engages everyone. Rather than it being top down and disseminated to the lower ranks within the organization, it's something that is engaging everyone. And then you jointly set the objectives, we develop the action plans, we review them, we tie the rewards to them, and then they become part of the corporate strategies and goals for the whole organization.